Hi, it's Caprice again, and welcome back to Mind, Brain, and Environment. Many people believe that health and behavior come down to personal choices, but the truth is, those choices are often shaped long before they're ever made. Research shows that environmental conditions such as housing quality, exposure to toxins, noise, crowding, and access to resources play a major role in shaping both biological development and behavioral, once said by Ferguson in 2013. In communities like Killeen, Texas, where I'm from, these environmental factors are especially important. With a strong military presence, frequent relocation, and varying access to resources, many families face challenges that go beyond individuals' controls. Today, I'm going to break down this into four key areas: how environment affects biology and behavior, strategies social workers can use, the role of environmental justice, and how we can advocate for better outcomes. So, with influence of environment on biology and behavior. Environmental conditions directly impact the body and mind. Studies show that exposure to stress like noise, toxins, overcrowding, and unstable housing can affect brain development, increase stress hormones, and lead to emotional and behavioral challenges, especially in children, once said by Ferguson in 2013. For example, children living in chaotic and crazy environments often experience high level of stress. Over time, this can impact attention, memory, and emotional regulation. In Killeen, Texas, this shows up in a very real way. Many military families relocate frequently. While that may seem normal, constant relocation disrupts routines, friendships, and school stability. A child who is always adjusting may struggle with focus, anxiety, and social connections. And here's the key point: that behavior is often labeled as personal problems, when in reality, it's a response to environmental instability. Environmental factors like limited access to food, safe neighborhoods, and stable housing also affect physical health outcomes. According to research, these conditions influence long term development and well being across the lifespan, again by Ferguson in 2013. So instead of asking what's wrong with this person, we should be asking what environment are they navigating. Now, here are some strategies for social workers. To adjust these environmental challenges, social workers must work at multiple levels: the micro, the meso, and macro. At the micro level, social workers focus on individuals and families. This includes identifying environmental stressors and connecting clients to resources. For example, in Killeen, Texas, a social worker might help a military family manage relocation stress by connecting them to school counseling, housing support, and community programs. At the meso level, social workers work within communities. This can involve creating programs that support children and families dealing with instability. For example, partnering with local schools to provide peer support groups or academic assistance for students who frequently transfer. At the macro level, social workers advocate for system change. This includes pushing for policies that improve housing stability, increase access to mental health services, and reduce environment risk. To make this more practical, let's look at what this actually looks like in real life. In Killeen, a social worker working with a military family might notice that a child is struggling academically after multiple relocations. Instead of focusing only on the child's behavior, the social worker would examine the environmental factors contributing to that stress. They could coordinate with the school to create a transitional plan, connect the family with counseling services, and help establish consistent routines at home to reduce instability. At the community level, social workers could develop programs specifically designed for children experiencing frequent moves. This might include peer mentorship programs, structured after school support, or it could be things such as workshops focused on building emotional resilience. At the policy level, with this one, advocacy becomes critical, very, very critical. In Killeen, Texas, this could include advocating for increased funding for mental health, services for military families, improving access to affordable housing, and expanding transportation options for low-income residents. This shows that effective social work is not just about helping individuals, it's about addressing the environment that shapes their experience. Now let's talk about environmental justice. So with environmental justice focuses on the reality that not everyone experiences the same environmental conditions. Low-income communities and communities of color are more likely to face poor housing, high exposure to pollution, limited access to healthy foods, and fewer community resources. According to Dawn in 2022, many health outcomes are influenced by social determinants, such as environmental conditions, economic stability, and access to care. This creates this disparity where certain populations experience worse health outcomes, not because of individual choices, but because of unequal environments. Environmental reproductive justice builds on this idea by showing how environmental conditions impact reproductive health, maternal outcomes, and child development. Velez in 2022 explained that these issues are deeply connected and disproportionality affects marginalized communities. Social workers play a key role here. They do not support individuals. They identify systemic inequalities, advocates for change, and work to ensure that all communities have access to safe and healthy environments. Now let's talk about advocacy for improving well-being. Advocacy is one of the most important roles of social work. At the individual level, advocacy means helping clients access resources and navigate systems like housing, healthcare, and education. At the community level, it means building partnerships with organizations to expand access to services such as food programs, mental health support, and safe community spaces. At the policy level, advocacy involves pushing for long-term change. In Killeen, Texas, this could include advocating for affordable housing initiatives, increasing access to mental health services for military and low-income families, improving infrastructures and transportations, supporting policies that reduce environmental health risk. Advocacy also means amplifying client voices. This can involve helping individuals share their experiences in community forums or supporting initiatives that bring awareness to environmental challenges. According to Velez in 2022, addressing environmental issues requires both direct support and systemic change. You cannot separate the two. So, what does all of this come down to? It means we need to stop looking at individuals as the problem and start looking at the environment they are placed in. Because when environments are unstable, unhealthy, and unsafe, people are forced to spend their energy just trying to cope. But when environments improve, everything changes. People experience better health, children perform better in school, families become more stable, and individuals are no longer just surviving. They are giving the opportunity to truly thrive. That is where social work has the power to make the biggest impact, not just in people's lives, but in the system that shapes those lives. Thank you for listening to Mind, Brain, and Environment again. Have a good night.